This is Standard Work Practice 210, Dumping on Berms. Let's address some of the work area information prior to conducting work in and around berms. Knowing your equipment. Ensure you are receiving specific task training on each model of equipment you operate. If you're unsure, back out and contact your supervisor. Do not operate equipment you are not task trained on. It is important and required for you to complete a pre-operational inspection for your safety and the integrity of the equipment. When entering and exiting the cab of your equipment, always use 3 points of contact. Once inside, and everything is secured in the cab, don't forget about yourself, and utilize the seatbelt anytime the equipment is in operation. Follow the designated routes and don't take shortcuts, they could expose you and others to injury. Keep your hands and head inside the cab and close the doors and windows while loading and unloading to avoid contact with potentially falling material and accumulation of dust. Verify travel routes of any potential situations where there are inadequate clearances between equipment, conveyors, and overhead power lines. While operating your equipment, choose a gear consistent to terrain and adhere to posted speed limits. Stay within established roadways, providing the best visibility, traction, and braking surfaces for conditions. Observations of work areas. Workplace examinations are inspections required at the start of your shift and shall be documented on an HSEF 17. The shift supervisor or designated person shall evaluate for any hazards and ensure any newly identified hazards throughout the day are documented and communicated to the other personnel working in the area. If you're not the one completing the workplace inspection, report any identified hazards you may have found back to the operator. Access to an area may be restricted by means of a berm, caution, or danger tape or other methods if the stockpile or work zone is inactive. Pay attention to ensure water runoff during rainy weather or storms is not causing damage to berms and traveled roadways. Be observant to any environmental spills or sheens on water and report any environmental damage identified. Look to ensure the size of the stockpile has not breached the permitted area or height as established on any site. Importance of safety berms at dump sites. The standard of the berm being mid-axle height of the tallest vehicle works for a short time until wind, weather, and ground movement affects the once perfect berm. The design, construction, and most importantly, the maintenance of berms have been traditionally determined by rule of thumb experience. The inclusion of minimum berm heights related to the axle height of the largest vehicles operating in the area, along with guidelines for the thickness and firmness of the berm, will help ensure correct berms are established. Select driving areas with firm materials for traction while avoiding loose material, weak areas, and slick spots. Rocks, loose material, or heavy vegetation will reduce traction and cause sliding or skidding when braking. Be aware of weather changes which affect ground conditions including extreme heat and dry conditions and varying types of moisture to include rain, snow, freezing and thawing that could create mud, snow, or ice on the driving surfaces. Travel at acceptable speeds for conditions. Any area within a mine which has heavy traffic flows, and with reversing operations, can end up being an accident hotspot when dealing with backing to berms. Berms construction, material selection, and geometry. Material type used to construct the berm. This is normally remined material that can contain various sizes and types of material. This also has an impact on the angle of repose the material can achieve, which relates indirectly to its effectiveness. The types or classification of soils shall be taken into consideration for the methodology of constructing berms as some materials are more susceptible to slumping or giving way. Berm height. Various berm heights are present on a mine, however, the requirement still applies to the berm being at least mid-axle height of the largest piece of equipment in operation. Geometry of the berm. Recent studies showed that where possible the trapezoidal shape should be applied to berms at the dump point, as they are efficient in keeping their shape after various impacts from trucks at dumping. A berm's height, and to some extent the geometry, are crucial factors for safety. Utilizing the knowledge of when corrective maintenance on them is required is critical to safe daily operations. Maintenance of the berm. Look for erosion, sloughing, slope undercutting, or other features that compromise berm integrity. Berms require constant maintenance to reduce the likelihood of berm failure, which increases after each impact from trucks dumping. Angle of approach. When backing, know where other pieces of equipment are, and use all your mirrors and cameras if equipped, and be sure to back up straight to the berm edge, allowing both tires to contact the base of the berm evenly. Haul truck drivers should be trained to ensure that a 90 degrees angle of approach to the berm is the most efficient and safe angle at dumping sites. It may be necessary to position the truck at a 75 degrees angle of approach to the dumping area or berm, although the tipping factor is greatly enhanced. A 75 degrees angle of approach has a dramatic and negative effect on the stability of the truck and should not be used if possible. This positioning is applicable to tight areas and extra caution must be used. Berm openings. Drainage along the berms and openings for water is essential for the berm to stay in place. Openings for drainage are acceptable, though the opening cannot be large enough for equipment or vehicles to pass through. Constant monitoring alleviates this situation. Berm edge feedback. The importance of berms as a safety barrier for reversing haul trucks as a tactile feedback mechanism allows drivers to identify when they should stop and where the edge of the dump area is. In doing so, evaluate the berm as you approach the dumping area, looking for any cracks parallel to the edge or areas that have fallen away. The operator needs to be constantly aware of maintaining a safe edge by observing any ground changes during dumping. Enhanced awareness is needed at berm areas along open pits, high walls, hoppers, or along bodies of water. Equipment used along waterways or potentially going into water shall have a life jacket in the equipment. Caution: all axles of the haul truck or dump truck shall remain at the grade of the roadway, meaning no axles shall go up the berm to facilitate dumping over an edge or to increase compaction of dumped materials. Following this key aspect will eliminate wheel climb and reduce the chances of the haul truck going over the berm. Haul truck dumping. Frequently check the dumping location for any ground personnel moving around to ensure they are not in the path of the working equipment. A method known as paddock dumping is a commonly used method for dumping along berms. This is where the trucks dump the material in a set area as close together as possible. If necessary, more layers can be added or material can be pushed off with a bulldozer. Stop equipment a safe distance away from areas such as high wall, berms, ponds, or fresh excavations where loose material could be a hazard or not capable of supporting the truck. Lack of or inadequate berms make the edge hard to judge and offers inadequate restraint to keep a vehicle from going over the edge. An edge of a pile that has been undercut has cracks parallel to the edge, showing signs of settlement, or a slide means the edge is unstable for equipment weight. A soft area near the edge of the berm may cause tires to sink or truck to tip over backwards. A downgraded slope to the berm can create soft areas as the water migrates to these areas. These soft areas may be a result of a pile that is placed on a weak foundation or uncompacted surfaces. Berm maintenance has in the past been a minor operational task, requiring occasional grader or dozer attention of secondary importance. Fatalities occurring due to inadequate safety berms at dumping points, which are completely preventable, had sufficient attention been paid to the issue. Dozers are generally used to clean up or maintain the stockpile. At times, a dozer may be required to push down a high face of a stockpile if it has become undercut. There is a higher risk associated with this process, and only experienced dozer operators should perform this task. Such hazards and risks must be continually reviewed to ensure worksite safety. If there is not a dozer on site, and it is clear the dumping area needs to be maintained, call a supervisor to notify them of the condition. Unsafe loading or unloading conditions could include areas with inadequate illumination for nighttime operations, or poor visibility during inclement weather, makes detection of unsafe conditions more difficult. Backing towards the excavator can be dangerous if they are unaware of your intentions. If they are swung in an away position, they cannot see you backing up to their equipment. It is best to then wait until notification is given, or the driver is clearly visible. Hitting into the berm when positioning to dump. Using the berm to help stop the truck creates the risk that the vehicle may go through the berm or cause the berm to give way. Jamming on the brakes while backing near the edge of a pile places additional forces pushing down and out on the top of the pile, which can cause the edge to give way. Failure to check for inadequate clearances between equipment and overhead power lines can be fatal. Keep in mind that overhead clearances decrease as dump heights increase. Raising the box too high, when the material sticks in the box, can cause the truck to become unstable and tip over. Oh, the operator will never exit the cab if the box is in the raised position. If material is stuck or there is a problem with equipment, the safest place is in the cab. Oh, always follow the method listed in the operator's manual for lowering the box prior to moving forward or driving after dumping, to eliminate the potential of hitting a low-hanging item or power line. High wall berms. Always slope loose or unconsolidated material to the angle of repose or strip the material back at least 10 feet from the top of the wall edge. Berms situated along a high wall, when in place, shall be a minimum of 10 feet back, measured from the high wall edge to the closest berm toe, at its angle of repose using the trapezoidal shape. Oh, note, personnel are not to walk out to an exposed edge and measure exact distances for safety purposes. When berms are removed for blasting situations, the removed material will no longer define the edge or provide a barrier to equipment and any personnel working in the area. Oh, on the approach end of the high wall, signs are to be posted stating, "Oh, caution working face non-bermed area." Signs are mounted on movable bases and shall be relocated as high wall approach areas move. The importance of safety. With the mining industry's activities increasing, pressure on mining companies to stay competitive through productivity enhancements while keeping employees safe is a major focus and an essential aspect of daily operations. Having safety berms in place, and in accordance with safety guidelines, is an essential part of the goal of ensuring accident and fatality-free mines, whilst improving efficiency, maintaining production goals, and reducing lost workdays. Together, we can all do our part in ensuring a safe workplace.